Dragon Ball Z, one of the most well-known and historic franchises in the world. Not just the anime, they've also made some great video games. And in this video, we're going to be diving deep in some of the greatest Dragon Ball games of all time. And no, the list of games you're about to see are not my opinion. Sort of. If you disagree with anything in this video, let me know in the comment section down below. Or if I missed something, let me know as well. I appreciate y'all for clicking, and I hope you enjoy. And the first game that we're going to be talking about is Dragon Ball Budokai 3. First things first, let's talk about the combat. This game took everything from the previous Budokais and refined it to perfection. The fast-paced, fluid fighting style feels incredibly satisfying. You're not just button mashing here. There's an actual rhythm to the combat. And let's not get it twisted, the combo system is deep, whether you're pulling off some crazy multi-hit or chaining together some energy blasts. Every move in this game feels impactful and flashy, just like the anime. And don't get me started about the super attacks. They are so much fun to pull off. Whether you're doing a Kamehameha, or sorry, Kamehameha, whatever you guys prefer, or a final flash, whenever you land a super move, it feels like you're watching an actual Dragon Ball Z episode play out in real time. The special moves have a ton of variety and they look gorgeous, especially for a game that came out in 2004. Now, one of the things that really sets Budokai 3 apart from other fighters is the Z item system. It's not just about raw power or skill, it's also about customization. You can equip your characters with different Z items, which enhance their abilities, speed, or defense. You can really personalize your fighter stats to match your playstyle. Want Goku to be faster? Throw an item that boosts your speed. Or maybe you want Vegeta to have a huge health bar. The Z items let you tweak things just the way you want. And I know this is a pretty basic feature for Dragon Ball games that come out now, but for a game that came out over 20 years ago, this was absolutely revolutionary. This system adds so much replayability to the game because it's not just about learning each character's moves, but it's also experimenting with different setups and strategies to see what works best for you. Another standout feature of Budokai 3 is its story mode. This game takes you through the entire Dragon Ball Z storyline from the Saiyan Saga all the way through to Majin Buu. And I've got to say, the cutscenes are top notch. For a game that came out in 2004, which is older than most of you watching, the visuals were stunning and all the voice acting brought the characters to life in a way that really made you feel like you were playing through one of your favorite episodes. What I personally really enjoyed about the story mode was that it wasn't just a straight up fight to fight progression. You'd encounter unique challenges and scenarios which kept things fresh. You're not just hitting the same old fight the next opponent, you're actually engaging with a story, which is a nice touch for fans of the show. You've got over 40 characters to choose from, everything from the big hitters like Goku, Vegeta, and Frieza, to the fan favorites like Piccolo, Trunks, and even some of the lesser known characters like Videl and Mr. Satan, which I know that's not really revolutionary to games like today, but in 2004, this was insane. Each character feels unique with their own special moves that really helps add depth to the game. What's even better is the transformation mechanic. Characters like Goku and Vegeta can transform into Super Saiyan, and it's not just cosmetic, it gives them new abilities and boosts their power. What's a basic mechanic now was an absolute game changer back in the day. Last but not least, let's talk about the replayability. With a huge roster, the Z items customization, and the different difficulty levels, Budokai 3 is a game that you can always go back to. Whether you're unlocking all the characters, trying out new Z items, or just enjoying a quick battle with friends, there's always something to keep you coming back. Speaking of which, multiplayer is a blast. The competitive battles that you can have with your friends is where this game really shines. It's not just about beating each other up, it's about out-strategizing your opponent and mastering all those crazy combos and special moves. Of course, no game is perfect, and Budokai 3 has its flaws. One issue some players used to have is the AI, especially in the later stages of the story mode. It can feel like the computer is either way too easy or suddenly overpowered, and that creates a bit of inconsistency, but I don't mind it. Another small gripe, and you're gonna hear it come up a lot in this video, is the camera. During some of the more intense fights, especially when characters are flying around, the camera can be a bit hard to control, making it tough to track your opponents sometimes. But honestly, these are some minor issues in the grand scheme of the game. So to wrap up Dragon Ball Budokai 3, it's a classic for a reason. It offers some deep combat, great customization, and an awesome story mode, and it's one of the best character rosters in the Dragon Ball game history. Sure, it has some flaws, but overall, it's a game that stands the test of time. Next, we're gonna talk about Budokai Tenkaichi 3. You knew this would be in the video, right? I can't talk about BT3 and not bring up the roster first. Tenkaichi 3 has one of the largest character rosters in Dragon Ball game history. This game came out in 2007 and had over 150 characters. Just to remind you, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero released with 183 characters in 2024, and most of them, of course, are transformations, but still, it counts. You could literally pick any character that you could think of, from characters like Goku, of course, all the way down to Android 8, Tambourine. Some of you guys never even heard of them before. No two characters are the same, which makes each battle feel fresh. Going Super Saiyan 4 with Goku or Vegeta never felt more satisfying. Now, I know what you guys have been waiting for, so let's talk about the combat of Budokai Tenkaichi 3. This game made the leap from 2D to 3D in the best way possible. Battles are no longer restricted to a flat plane. You can move freely in the 3D space, fly around, and attack from all sorts of angles. This feature added a whole new layer of depth to combat. Instead of just charging at your opponent head on, you can now fly up, dodge attacks, or even engage in aerial dogfights. The fight in itself is fast and fun, and with all those energy blasts and crazy combos that feel straight out of the anime. Plus, the game's emphasis on timing and energy management means that you're constantly thinking about strategy, not just spamming attacks. Most times, it really felt like you were playing a full-on Dragon Ball Z battle. One of the coolest features in Tenkaichi 3 is the destructible environments. Something that we were promised to have in Sparking Zero, but we'll talk about that later. Every stage in the game is fully destructible, meaning you can blow up mountains, buildings, and even change the terrain mid-fight. It is just pure chaos in the best way possible. You can launch your opponent into the ground and watch them create craters with their impact, just like from the battles of the anime. It truly added that extra sense of immersion that really makes these fights feel like a high-octane spectacle that we just loved about the anime. Talking about this and realizing what we have in Sparking Zero is actually making me kind of sad. But once again, we'll talk about it later. And of course, we can't talk about this game without mentioning the ultimate move. Every character, as you know, has their own iconic finishers, and most of them are pretty much straight out of the anime. I can talk about it for hours, but the biggest part about this game for me, combat-wise, was just playing this game, clashing our Kamehamehas, final flashes, and just mashing that joystick until it fell off. I think this game had some of the best cinematics that any Dragon Ball game has ever had, and I really don't think that they've matched it. We did not know how good we had it. This game offered so much replayability. Of course, you've got the main story, which covers all of Dragon Ball Z, the movies, everything. It's got all the major battles, but the way it's structured means that you don't just rush through fights. You got a variety of different scenarios to keep them a little bit more interesting. And then there's the Dragon World mode, which lets you explore and unlock characters, stages, and items. And then there's tournaments, which was just the best mode, man. You had to be there. The tournaments in Sparking Zero don't hold a light to this. No matter what you're into, there's always something here that keeps you coming back for more, whether it's the story, the challenges, or just good old-fashioned fights with your friends. Speaking of multiplayer, Tenkaichi 3 is a blast to play with friends. Now, as much as Tenkaichi 3 does right, it is not perfect. Remember when I mentioned the camera angles in Budokai 3? Forget what I told you, because the camera in this game was all over the place, especially when fighting. Tracking your opponent was sometimes impossible. But once again, it's not a deal breaker. It can get frustrating at times, but come on, this game was great. Also, while the 3D combat was a great idea, sometimes it felt a little bit clunky, especially when you're trying to dodge some certain attacks. You'll occasionally find yourself getting stuck in awkward situations where the controls just don't quite respond the way you want them to. But even with these minor annoyances, BT3 is still one of the best experiences in a Dragon Ball Z game. All in all, BT3 was an absolute gem with its massive roster, 3D combat, and insane replayability. This next game is probably going to be a surprise to you. But before we get to that, if you guys are enjoying this video, dropping a like, maybe subscribing if you're new would mean the absolute world to me. We're on our way to 10,000 subs, and I'd love for y'all to join us. Anyways, let's get back to it. Sorry. Dragon Ball Budokai 2, they do not respect you like I do, man. Wait. That low-key rhymed. I love this game. And if it's not in your list of best Dragon Ball games, you're wrong. Sorry. Let's start with the visuals of this game. One of the standout features of Budokai 2 is cel-shaded art style. This was an extremely bold move for the franchise, as it made the characters look like they literally jumped out of the anime. The bold, colorful graphics still hold up today, and I wish they one day would return to it. It gives the game this vibrant comic book aesthetic that just feels fresh and unique. It's a departure from the more realistic approach taken in later Dragon Ball games, and while I understand it's not for everyone, I think it really worked in Budokai 2. Now let's talk about my favorite mode, the Dragon World, which is this game's campaign mode. Instead of just fighting through a linear series of battles, which we've done a million times, Budokai 2 introduced a board game style map where you have to complete missions, fight enemies, and unlock characters by landing on different spaces. It's a nice mix of fighting and strategy as you collect Dragon Balls and take on various challenges to unlock new fighters and moves. You can also level up your characters, which gives you a sense of progression which most Dragon Ball games didn't have at that time. It's a fun change of pace from the typical fight-to-fight structure, and the unique board setup keeps things very interesting as you try to gather the Dragon Balls and make your way to the final boss. Some may not like the more gamey approach, but I found it to be a refreshing twist, and I would love to make a video about this game one day. Just let me know in the comment section if you would like that. Now, let's talk combat. Budokai 2 takes the tight, combo-driven fighting system from the first game and refined it. The gameplay is fast-paced and fluid, and pulling off some of those high-speed combos felt so good. While I know it's not as deep as the later Budokai games, Budokai 2 gets the basics right. You've got the standard attacks, energy blasts, and ultimate moves. And speaking of the moves, landing them felt extremely good in this game. The game's pacing and control strike a good balance, making it easy to jump, but also giving you room to master advanced techniques as you progress. When it comes to characters, Budokai 2 offers a solid roster for the time, holding 23 fighters, including, of course, Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Frieza. The game also had some cool unlockable characters, which is always fun for fans who want to put in some extra effort. While the roster isn't as huge as later games like Budokai 3, Sparking Zero, you get the idea. It still offers a decent selection, and unlocking characters through the Dragon World mode adds a nice sense of achievement. It's also great to be able to play characters like Super Saiyan 3 Goku or Majin Vegeta after working through the game's challenges. No Budokai game is complete without multiplayer, and Budokai 2 doesn't disappoint here. The split screen multiplayer battles are fast, intense, and tons of fun. Whether you're playing with friends or battling for supremacy against a sibling, the combat is satisfying and the controls are easy enough for anybody to pick up. It's a game that was damn near perfect for local co-op or versus play for the time. Just to point out a small issue is the lack of depth compared to the later entries in the Budokai series. While Budokai 2 is fun, the combat system feels a bit simplistic in comparison to the Budokai 3 upgrade, or of course Tenkaichi 3. It's a little bit more basic, sure, and some players might miss the greater level of complexity that the later games offered. But hey man, that story mode is enough to get you to try this game at least once. Trust me. Did you guys really think I was gonna leave Xenoverse 2 off? Come on, bro. Let's start off talking about Xenoverse 2's biggest highlight, the character creation. Unlike most Dragon Ball games, Xenoverse 2 lets you create your own fighter from scratch. Yeah, that's right. Man, kid me would be freaking out hearing this. You can choose your race, gender, and even customizing your character's moveset. You can also pick from 5 different races, from Saiyan, Namekian, Earthly, Majin, and Frieza race, each with their own unique traits and abilities. You can design your character's looks however you want, from hair to outfit to skin color. I know, it sounds like I'm describing NBA 2K or Madden. No, this is a Dragon Ball game. Whether you want a tough-looking Saiyan or a quirky Namekian, Xenoverse 2 lets you make them truly your own. Now, let's talk about the story. In Xenoverse 2, you play as a time patroller, whose job is to fix the distorted timelines by battling famous characters from the Dragon Ball universe. The time patrol missions are fantastic. They let you relive some of the most iconic moments from the series, but with a twist. You're not just watching the events play out, you're actively changing them. And while the story isn't exactly groundbreaking, it's a lot of fun to see what happens when you step into the shoes of a time patroller. You get to team up with characters like Trunks, Goku, and of course Vegeta, and it all feels incredibly satisfying when you're helping them protect the timeline. Now, let's talk about the heart of Xenoverse 2, the combat. It's fast and it's flashy. What more do you need? What I really love is the variety of moves. You're not just spamming punches and kicks. You can use energy blast, teleportation, and even combo-based techniques to defeat your opponent. The satisfaction of landing an ultimate attack, especially when you finish off an enemy, is one of the most rewarding things in the game. And while Xenoverse 2 is not my favorite Dragon Ball game, it definitely was a nice change in pace in all the games that we're accustomed to. Another huge plus of Xenoverse 2 is the online multiplayer, which is very much alive to this day. The game allows you to battle other players in real time, and the online experience is actually pretty fun. Whether you're going head-to-head in a one-on-one battle or teaming up with other players to take down bosses in raid battles, the multiplayer aspect keeps the game feeling fresh and exciting. Plus, the World Tournament mode lets you test your skill against players from all around the world. It's competitive, it's fun, and it keeps you coming back for more. The Xenoverse 2 community is also pretty active, with lots of custom content, fan creations, and tournaments happening regularly. And let's not forget the massive post-launch support for this game. It has a ton of DLC packs that are still coming out to this day that adds new characters, missions, and story content. Characters like Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, Jiren, and even Broly from the movies were also added as DLC, keeping the game fresh and exciting for years after release. It's a great way to keep the community engaged, and it's clear that the developers actually cared about keeping this game alive. Hopefully we can see the same with Sparking Zero. Anyways, of course, Xenoverse 2 is not perfect. One of the main complaints in this game is that missions can sometimes feel a little bit repetitive, especially when you're grinding up to level up or get new gear. You're often doing the same types of battles over and over, which can get old after a while. But hey, if you've played games games like Destiny, you're used to it. Another little issue is the loading times, especially when entering different areas or starting a mission. We all know that loading times is not a deal breaker, but it can get a little bit frustrating, especially when you just want to jump straight into a fight. With all this being said, Xenoverse 2 was a fantastic game with its character creation, epic battles, and online multiplayer. Sure, it has a couple issues, but Xenoverse 2 has honestly lasted, what's it been now? Like eight years? The fact that the community is still playing this game speaks volume. Give it a try if you haven't, because I know so many people that their first experience playing a Dragon Ball game was with this one. This is a game that you might have never heard of. Dragon Ball: The Legacy of Goku was a fresh RPG twist to the Dragon Ball game formula. Unlike most Dragon Ball games at the time, which focused solely on fighting, this game lets you explore the world as you progress through the story. You're not just stuck in one area. No, you can travel across the Dragon Ball universe, visiting familiar locations like the Kami House, West City, and even the Red Ribbon Army base. It was an exciting way to experience the world of Dragon Ball in a completely new format. You can also level up your character, making each fight feel more rewarding. You get experience points after defeating enemies, and as you level up, your character stats improve. It's a simple yet satisfying RPG mechanic that kept me hooked. Another thing about Legacy of Goku nails its faithfulness to the Dragon Ball Z story. It only covered the Saiyan saga through to the Frieza saga, but if you're a fan of the anime, it's basically like reliving the show from the perspective of the player. And believe it or not, this game actually nailed some major plot points that we don't typically see. For example, Goku training under King Kai is one that we barely see. While the game doesn't dive too deeply into the character backstories, it does a solid job of hitting the key events from the show. If you were a fan of the Z Saga and wanted to experience it interactively, the game really captured that feeling of adventure and urgency when it comes to every new saga. Now let's talk about the combat. Legacy of Goku has a simple yet satisfying battle system. You have your standard punches, kicks, and what really makes the combat stand out are the ki blasts. As you level up, you unlock more powerful ki moves like Kamehameha and Kaioken, just to name a few, and that's where the real fun begins. You can launch enemies into the air and then combo with them with energy attacks, which for a handheld game, what more could you ask for? The combat is fast, fluid, and extremely easy to pick up, making it fun for anyone. One of the cool features in Legacy of Goku is that you actually don't just play as Goku, which I know is a pretty standard for most Dragon Ball games, but hear me out. You can switch between different characters like Gohan, Piccolo, each with their own unique moves and abilities. For example, Gohan's special move has the Masenko, offers something different compared to Goku's Kamehameha. This not only adds a variety to the gameplay, but it also gives you a chance to experience a story from a different character's perspective. It's a small touch, but it really makes the game feel like you're playing through the entire Z Saga, not just Goku's journey, which I mean, the game is called Legacy of Goku, so you wonder why they did that, huh? Let's not forget the portability factor. This was a Game Boy Advance title, so it's easy to pick up and play anywhere. You can grind out battles during a commute or dive into a side quest while waiting for your food at a restaurant. Some of my greatest memories were road trips with my family and just playing on my Game Boy. Like, this game was so incredible. You were playing a Dragon Ball game on the road, bro. This was game changing. And of course, no game is perfect. While the Legacy of Goku did a lot right, there were a few things that held it back. One issue is the repetitive nature of some of the battles. The combat, while fun at first, can get a little grindy as you move through the game. Some people like that, so it's not necessarily a negative for some. You'll find yourself fighting the same enemies over and over and over again, and it can start feeling a bit monotonous. The map also feels a little limited, especially for an RPG. While you can explore, a lot of areas feel pretty small and lack interaction. For example, some towns or locations don't really offer much more than a few NPCs to talk to, making them feel a bit empty. Finally, while the game's level up system is fun, it can get a little bit frustrating at times. Some of the later boss battles feel a little overly difficult compared to the general grind, making it a bit of a slog when you're trying to beat the big bad guys like Frieza. If you have not played Dragon Ball Legacy of Goku, it's a great RPG fans for the series. Like I said, it's got fun combat, a faithful story, and the ability to switch between characters. Sure, it's got some repetitive elements, but if you're looking for a classic Game Boy Advance experience that brings Dragon Ball Z to life, this game is definitely worth checking out. Let's talk about the most obvious but crucial part of Dragon Ball Z's iconic story. Kakarot does something amazing by letting you relive the saga from Goku's perspective, but with a twist. Sure, you're battling through all the major arcs, Saiyan Saga, Namek, Androids, and Majin Buu, but the game doesn't just rush through them. It takes its time, letting you experience the story in a way that Dragon Ball Z fans have always dreamed of. You get these cinematic cutscenes that feel straight out of the anime, some of them even better than the anime. The voice acting spot on, and it's honestly hard to not get goosebumps. Especially when you hear iconic lines like "it's over 9,000" delivered with the same intensity as the show did. The game does an incredible job of making you feel like you're an actual part of these legendary moments. What makes Kakarot different from the other Dragon Ball games is its RPG elements. And I know we just talked about one, but this one, you can't compare that to a GBA game. This was an actual open world exploration game. You're not just fighting all the time. There's a lot of time spent flying around the world, collecting items and talking to NPCs. This game does a great job of capturing the feeling of traveling from place to place with vibrant environments that are filled with hidden secrets and challenges. The side quests in Kakarot, while a lot of people complain about them, I think they're a nice touch. They're not just filler. You're helping out familiar characters and unlocking new abilities or items, which adds some depth to the experience. It's also a nice break from the big epic battles, even if some side missions start to feel a little bit repetitive. The combat about this game doesn't get talked about enough. This battle system blends the classic Dragon Ball fighting with the RPG mechanics. You've got the fast-paced action that you'd expect from a Dragon Ball game, but now there's more strategic layers like leveling up your characters, unlocking new abilities, and using energy blasts like, of course, you know, the Kamehameha or the Final Flash with extra style. What I really appreciate is how the game makes you actually feel powerful. The battles are flashy, fast, and you have a nice flow to them where you can combo your way through enemies and see your attacks land with cinematic flair. It's not as deep as something like Dragon Ball FighterZ, which yes, we are going to talk about, but it does a fantastic job of balancing accessibility and fun, especially for fans who want to experience the anime's biggest fights in their own way. Another strong point of Kakarot is the character progression system. As you progress through the story, you can level up Goku and the other Z fighters, unlocking new skills, abilities, and passive buffs. There's a real sense of growth as you battle stronger foes, and customizing your character's skill set keeps things fresh. You get to feel like you're really shaping Goku into a powerful fighter you know he is, and the RPG elements gives you that extra layer of control. Also, a small detail that I don't see many people talk about is the relationship building aspects with characters like Vegeta, Piccolo. I think that's a great addition. You can train with them, unlock special moves, and deepen your bonds, which makes the experience even more rewarding. Visually, there is no game better than Kakarot. The anime-inspired art style pops and the world feels alive. From the colorful landscapes to the details in the character models, you can tell the developers put a lot of effort into capturing the Dragon Ball Z aesthetic. The music too, it's straight up nostalgia. Fans of the show will love hearing those iconic tracks playing during key moments. It's like they took the best parts out of the anime and made them come alive in video game form. Now, no game is without its flaws, and Kakarot is no exception. One of the biggest complaints, and I feel like it's a little bit unfair, is the repetitive nature of some of the side content. While some of the side quests are fun, many of them are just fetch quests or require you to battle some low-level enemies and just don't add a whole lot to the experience. But I mean, what do we expect, right? The combat system, while fun, can feel a bit too simple at times. If you're looking for the deep technical fighting system found in games like FighterZ, you might find Kakarot a little too basic. The difficulty curve can also be a bit inconsistent, especially on harder levels, and some players might feel like the story drags on for a little while, especially when you're replaying events you've already seen a million times. I truly don't believe a game has retold the Dragon Ball story quite like Kakarot before. So if you're looking to just relive the story, there's no better game. I know a lot of y'all have been waiting for this one, but let's talk about Dragon Ball FighterZ. As you guys know, Arc System Works, the team behind games like Guilty Gear and BlazBlue, really knocked this one out of the park. The cell shading and animation are gorgeous, and I don't think another Dragon Ball game quite looks like this one. The character designs are spot on, and the way that the game mimics the anime's art style with characters zooming across the screen and performing their iconic moves is an absolute treat. Let's talk about the gameplay of FighterZ. This game truly offered a deep yet accessible fighting system. Whether you're a seasoned fighting game vet or a Dragon Ball fan just looking to throw down with Goku and friends, the controls are easy to pick up, but tough to master. Oh my god, this game is hard. The combo system is super satisfying. Pulling off a string of hits or landing a massive attack feels extremely rewarding. What makes the game stand out though is the tag team mechanics. You get a team of 3 characters, and switching between them mid-combo can lead to an insane combo string and flashy team moves. It also adds a layer of strategy to the fights, giving you more freedom to express your fighting style. Plus, the Xenoverse-like ultimate attacks are spectacular as you would expect, making each victory feel like a huge payoff. It also has 30 plus playable characters, which I know is not as much as like Sparking Zero, but I mean, you can pick Beerus, Android 21, and even Goku Black. Each character feels unique with their own moves and playstyles, so there's plenty of room to experiment and find your favorite fighter. And I don't think any of the games that we mentioned captures the transformations as good as this one. If you're into competitive fighting games, Look no further. FighterZ is it. The online multiplayer is extremely fast with ranked matches, and you can truly test your skill against players from all around the world. The arcade mode is perfect for casual play, and the ranked mode will really challenge you to hone your skills and rise through the ranks. Most of the time, you'll experience smooth gameplay with minimal lag, which makes a big difference when you're in the heat of a combo-filled battle. Sparking Zero, take note. While fighting games aren't always known for their storylines, FighterZ does a great job offering something fun and unique. The plot centers around a mysterious new villain, and you'll see characters like Goku, Vegeta, and Piccolo team up in ways we haven't seen before. The story feels like a fun what-if scenario with tons of fan service. And the mods, don't get me started with the mods, bro. The introduction of new characters like Android 21, who was specifically created for this game, is a nice touch. She's a memorable addition to the roster, both in terms of gameplay and story. And you already know the negatives. One issue some players face is its steep learning curve for beginners. While the game is easy to get into, mastering combos and learning the ins and outs of each character can take some serious practice. It's great for hardcore fans, but newcomers might find it a bit overwhelming. I don't know about y'all watching, but I personally cannot play FighterZ anymore. I haven't played it in like 2 years, and when I tried returning to it, I got absolutely embarrassed. It just was not fun for me. Another downside is the online matchmaking. While the game generally runs smoothly, sometimes the ranking system feels a little unbalanced, and you can run into some frustrating lag or long wait times in between matches. It doesn't absolutely ruin the game, but it can definitely impact your experience. So to wrap this game up, FighterZ is an absolutely fantastic fighter with stunning visuals, smooth gameplay, and a diverse character roster. Sure, it has its tough moments, but the highs far outweigh the lows. If you're a fan of the franchise and have not played FighterZ yet, what are you doing, bro? Last but not least, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I'm not sure I want to go into a deep dive of a game that just came out 2 months ago. So how about we just talk about some major key points? Positive and negative. Sparking Zero had a chance to be one of the greatest fighting games of all time. I mean that. Unfortunately, about 2 months after release, it seems to have lost a big portion of its player base. And it is for a multitude of reasons. I think the biggest one, though, is the fact that they rushed the release of this game just to match the release of Dragon Ball Daima, the new anime. Starting with a story mode, it just feels subpar to almost every single game I've spoke about in this video. It has slideshows as if I'm playing a game that came out in 2004. While I know some people say don't complain about the story mode, we've played it a million times, I can't help but feel like I was cheated a bit. Oh, JZ, just go play Kakarot if you want a good story mode. But what if I wanted to play Sparking? Like, this game should have a decent story mode. Don't you agree? Let's talk about the offline mode for a quick second. On release, you could only play couch co-op in the hyperbolic time chamber. You expect me to believe that this game wasn't rushed? My background is electrical engineering and computer science. It's not that difficult to put maps that you can play online and in the story mode in 1v1 battles and offline. Like, why was that so difficult to add on release? Not just that, I feel like a lot of the characters were left out that we thought would for sure be in this game. We all thought that Dragon Ball Sparking Zero was going to be the Smash Ultimate equivalent for Dragon Ball games. Smash Ultimate said, hey, we're adding every character that's ever been in Smash, and we're adding a bunch of DLC characters like Banjo-Kazooie, Sephiroth, and made the game even better. This game, though, yeah, they added super characters, which is sweet, but they left a lot of them out that we saw. Not just that, but I mean, Super 17, Android 8, Tambourine, King Piccolo, like these are characters that I feel as though should have been on the game in release, and I know they're gonna come soon, but what are we doing, guys? I don't want to spend too much time negatively talking about Sparking Zero, but let's just briefly mention the online play. They didn't add a normal unranked battle mode, so you're forced to play ranked if you don't want to be sitting in a room playing King of the Hill all day. And ranked is just, it's just fusions, and it's UI Goku, and it's Jiren and Beerus. Like, we knew this would happen. People want to win. They want to get to Z rank, which I am, but I can't help but to feel, where are all the other characters in the game? Nobody's using them, and I get it. They just want to win. So I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming the fact that we don't have a normal unranked mode. And also the connection is, it's very spotty. They didn't add a rollback system for the netcode online play, and every game feels different. The delay is sometimes unbearable, and you truthfully can't play with people from the UK or Africa or any other continent that's not yours. And I know this whole topic has been negative, but I feel as though this is constructive criticism. So please don't think that I'm hating on Sparking Zero in any way. I love the video game. The foundation is amazing. Like, the bones of this game still has potential to be the greatest Dragon Ball game of all time. But when I look back and play old games like Budokai Tenkaichi 3, its true predecessor, I can't help but feel sad And it's not Dragon Ball's fault. This is the state of gaming nowadays. Companies think that they can release video games half-baked and just expect us to continue playing it. As I said, the player base has dropped significantly. I think almost 95% of players who bought it and played it on release have left the game and haven't returned. While I know it's normal that games lose players after release, it just feels like this was very sudden. I'm still playing Sparking Zero, and I'm still uploading videos of Sparking Zero because I still enjoy it, and I know the game has insane potential. I just feel saddened when looking at the old games and see what we could have had. Obviously, I still love Sparking Zero, and you wouldn't really tell by what I just said about it, but I'm gonna wait before I make my final judgment on the game. I love it, and I'm going to continue playing it, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. If we keep playing it, they'll keep updating it. This game is not even in its final form yet. So if you're considering buying Sparking Zero, I personally love it, and I would love to play against you. So hey, I would say buy it because like I said, the potential is through the roof. If you guys made it to the end of this video, thank you. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think I missed something. Also, in case you haven't dropped a like or subscribed, consider doing so. I got nothing left to say, man, except for thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.